Thank you all for joining us for season 2 of Real Talk with Arlette. This show is about bringing together a diverse group of ladies to exchange ideas and share their experiences on topics that relate to all women. I've decided to dedicate this whole second series to a topic that has certainly impacted my life, as well as many of the lives of women that are in my circle. And that topic is cancer. And let me tell you, y'all, it ain't for wimps. So at this time, I would like to introduce my very special guest. She is fearless. She is one of the strongest women I know, and she is one of the kindest people I know. So please help me welcome the one and only Vanessa Angulo. Vanessa, thank you so much for being on the show. I know that you're a very busy woman, so thank you for coming on to share your story.
I honestly, Arlette, I am honored to be asked to be here. I too have obviously a closer to connection to cancer than I would like, but I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. So let's talk about that. Let's just jump right in. Now, you've not directly been impacted with cancer, so you've never received a cancer diagnosis, but you have been impacted in that you've had a mother with breast cancer and brain cancer, a sister with breast cancer and brain cancer, as well as a mother-in-law and a brother-in-law. So you have certainly seen your share of illness. So do you mind sharing with us the extent of the impact on your life?
Yeah. Our family has definitely been directly impacted. My mother was diagnosed in her late 40s. I had just gone off to college and was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was actually in remission for 10 years and then received the brain cancer diagnosis. And she passed about a year after she was diagnosed with brain cancer. My mother-in-law was next. She was diagnosed in August of 2018, again with breast cancer, stage 1. She was being very proactive in checking herself, and she was able to find it. So she was stage 1. Did not make treatments any easier, and she was living with us at that time. And then in September of 2019. I'll never forget that I was leaving my job and was in the parking lot. My sister called me like we usually do, and she told me that she had cancer. So my sister was diagnosed with lymphatic breast cancer, which is extremely aggressive. And she went on to treatments as well and surgeries. All the while, back in 2016, my brother-in-law was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And he, he went through treatment. He was in remission for a short period of time. Then my sister got sick and he started not feeling well either. He was diagnosed with a different type of cancer in 2020, and he was made terminal in June of this year and passed away in July 16th.
My goodness.
So yeah.
That's a lot in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
And it's very ironic that you've had your mother and your sister and your mother-in-law all with breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And still breast cancer is the second leading cause of death for women. Yeah. So now I will say this, the death rates have decreased. I think it's 27% now. So that's encouraging. But I just can't imagine having that many family members and your sister having a husband with cancer at the same time she had cancer. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Now, I know for me, cancer has certainly impacted my life in that I've had women in my family with cancer. And it does take a toll on you emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, all over. I mean, it's like you go through the stages of grief, even though you're not the one that's ill, but you're still there having to care for those that are ill. So it certainly takes a toll. Let's talk a little bit about being a caregiver. I mean, I know that you have family members that you've had to help care for. And I know from my experience, usually when a person is sick, they feel as though they're a burden.
Mhm.
So, I mean, were you able to assist them, or did they push back? And, if so, if you were, what type of support did you provide?
Yeah, so, with my mother-in-law, she was here, so it was a little bit easier to provide some support during her treatments. Um, with my sister and Ray, my brother-in-law, it was more difficult because they're in South Carolina and I'm in Texas.
Gotcha.
So, my sister is very strong. We Ortiz women, my maiden name, we are very much like get things done, just get through it, push forward, and and she had that same mentality. And so it was difficult to be able, like, what do you need? What can I do for you? How can I help? Right. And in the beginning, it wasn't easy, right? Because there's things that they need that they don't even know that they need yet, right? So things like setting up meal trains, setting up someone to come clean the house once a week, because when you're going through chemo treatments, it's affecting your immune system. So having that to be able to come home from treatments and have a clean home. We also did, setting up groceries for her and having those delivered. I also had to do, a couple surprise visits because I always knew when she was kind of down and she wasn't in a good space, and I'm like, oh, she needs sister time. And I would, my husband has been very supportive, and I would get on a plane and go, surprise her. And I have one on video where I got to surprise her, and it was awesome. But those are, some of the things. I also set up a GoFundMe page for her when both of them were going through treatment at the same time. I sent her positive, uplifting, encouraging books, not just, I sent her some things on cancer and some educational things, but it was really around keeping her positive and motivated. Also helping with rides, right? Whether it's to treatment or it's picking up the kids from school so she doesn't have to worry about it. And honestly, we kept our conversations to be as genuine and authentic as they were. It wasn't I'm walking on eggshells. If I had a joke or we were joking or, gossiping or whatever we were doing, we did that. And it, and it helped to keep it real because, a lot of people, when they're going through it, it kind of overcomes you and you don't know what else to do. And so I try to keep my conversations with her limited on the cancer piece, right? And more around what else is going on? What we're going to plan a party for when you beat this. Like, what do you want? What theme do you want? Things like that, to keep them in a really good headspace, because the treatments are physically hard. But adding on to that, the mental, right? So like losing your hair was a big struggle for my sister, and understandable. I mean, we go from, feeling like we're in a good space, and then hair starts falling out and you're just like, oh my God, and you lose control. And so it was really important to not just focus our conversations on that. We had conversations about it, but it was really around keeping our genuine connection and joking and laughing and planning for the future.
Kudos to you, because you said it, it's hard when you're in the battle, having to go through chemo and losing your hair, and you're going through you're grieving, really.
Yeah.
and you're not thinking about life. Because most people, when they hear cancer, they think, oh, I'm going to die.
Mhm.
So having someone like you to keep her in a positive mindset, man, that's half the battle right there.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for that. You, I want to shift gears because of the family history of breast cancer. You made the decision to have the testing done to see if you had the cancer gene. And then you tested negative for that.
Yep.
But still, you chose to make a life-altering decision, which some folks may think is radical.
Mhm.
So this is very personal to you, but I know that you said you wanted to share it. So can you let us know about the proactive approach that you took towards your healthcare?
Yeah. So, when my mother was diagnosed many years ago, and then when we lost her in 2009, I had already had it in my head that this could be something that I'd have to do in order to
Yeah.
protect myself. And, I had just had my first child when my mother, I was pregnant with my first child when my mother passed away. And so I still wanted to have more children. And, when my sister was diagnosed, it was like, for me, it was like a light switch. It was like, I
Yeah.
have to do this. And so she was diagnosed in September of 2019. Probably the end of September, I was seeing a breast oncologist to get my genetic testing done, talking to them about my different options of what could I do, what's my risk factor, because if you test negative, there's still a bunch of other things that they're looking at to see what your risk factor is.
Mm-hmm.
With not having the gene, my sister didn't have the gene either, which we found out after she was diagnosed with cancer. But my risk factor, a normal person, is 12%. My risk factor without having the gene was over 40%, which is
Really?
because they take a bunch of different things, right? Your
Yeah.
ethnicity, your age, your previous behaviors. I mean, there's a lot of things that they take into consideration. And so when I heard my risk factor, that kind of solidified the decision. And so I decided very quickly after my sister was diagnosed that I was going to have a preventative double mastectomy with reconstruction. I did the deep flap procedure, which essentially takes fat from your stomach, and they use that fat to create breasts.
Wow.
And it's one option. I mean, you could do nipple sparing, you could do not. You can do where they take it from your stomach, you could take it from where they take it from your back, from in between in the insides of your legs. There's so many different spots where you have that extra fat that they could use. And I'll tell you, at the time, it was a very easy decision for me because I had seen my mother go through it, now seeing my sister go through it, watching my mother-in-law, my brother-in-law. It was a really easy decision for me to protect the future of my family. And so I had the surgery December 3rd of that year, 2019. Wow. And although it was not easy, I did have complications. I did end up losing my right breast after 3 surgeries. And some just things that happen. I finally, after the second surgery, I felt like I was coming out of it mentally, because I will tell you, what I was not prepared for was the mental piece of it.
Yeah.
The mental piece of it really shook me. I mean, shook me. And I mean, my sister was going through chemo at the time, and she was calling me every day and checking on me. Like, that's our relationship, like no matter what else is going on. And she was like helping me come out of that dark space, because when you the first part of it is having all the scars, but then
Right.
when you lose the breast, and that's not your expectation when you go into this surgery, right? Your expectation is, well, I'm going to have a flatter stomach and I'm going to have a new set of breasts. That's
Right.
that is not what happens. It's not. Regardless, it's not your body. It's different.
Yeah.
And I really struggled. I struggled a lot. And I have to tell you that when you make that type of decision, you have to have a very strong support system, which thankfully I did. My husband cared for me 24/7, took care of me in every way possible, probably not expecting to have to do that at 40 years old, right? But he did it, and he took amazing care of me. My mother-in-law helped to take care of me. And I don't regret the decision. I wish I had a different outcome, but I don't regret it, because the reason for me to do the surgery was to limit my risk, was to reduce my, and I did that regardless of whether I have 2 breasts or scars. I did limit my risk, so I achieved what I wanted to achieve. But it's not a decision for everybody. I had people were like, why would you do that? What are you thinking?
Right.
But when you watch as many people as I have go through cancer and go through chemo and go through radiation and go through surgeries, and some people not even get better, it's not a hard decision. It's a really easy one when you've experienced that. And again, I don't regret the decision I made. Again, I wish I had a different outcome, but physically, but I achieved my goal. And at the end of the day, that's what's most important. My husband loves me. He, it's not a barrier or anything for us. And I think that going through that procedure helped my marriage too, because we really took a look at, wow, we were really there for each other when things got bad. And everybody can say that.
Just like I said in the beginning, you are certainly fearless and certainly strong. And I admire you. I wholeheartedly admire you for taking, I don't think it's a radical approach. I think it's a very smart, proactive approach.
Yeah.
Because I tell people all the time, doctors practice medicine. It's up to us to own our own health. And, I'm speaking to myself too, because I'm at higher risk for breast cancer as well. So, kudos to you for taking charge of your life. But, people don't realize our breasts are important to us because it's part of our femininity. Yeah. So I can only imagine what you went through mentally, having to part with them. But again, if that means you living and, taking, not taking that risk, then yeah, I applaud you for that wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
I did want to give some statistics. There are, before I jump into my last question for you, the cancer rate, let's see, let me find it. There are 1.9 million people that will be impacted by cancer, not just breast cancer, just cancer in general. 608,570 of those people will die from cancer. The good news is the cancer death rate has fallen from its peak. It peaked in 1991 to 2018, but there has been a decline by 31%. And that is in large part due to the reduction in folks smoking, as well as the improvements of early detection and treatment. So that 31% in the decline in death rate will save 3.2 million lives. So ladies, check your breasts. Do your monthly breast exams. Get your yearly mammograms. And if you're at high risk, get them sooner. But work with your doctor, be proactive. That's just my 2 cents. But Vanessa, I know that you shared some resources with me. I want you to talk a little bit about these groups
Sure.
because you have a few support groups that you are involved with. And I think these are our Facebook groups, the Prophylactic Mastectomy group. And guys, we will put this information, the resources and support groups in the video description. So you don't have to worry about writing it down. So the Prophylactic Mastectomy group, the Double Single Mastectomy Discussion Support Group, and then there's the Blessing Box Project. What is that?
So the Blessing Box Project is actually a woman here in Houston who, when you go through a double mastectomy, there's a certain type of pillow that you need in order to keep from being in pain. And it has kind of loops in it so you can put your arms, but you're padded here and you're padded behind.
Okay.
And that helps in the initial stages of recovery. And so I came about it. I had already had my double mastectomy, but my sister was about to go through hers. So I had mine in December. She had hers at the end of February. And this, I found it on Facebook, and they basically make pillows, and they send, they write inspirational quotes on the pillows.
Wow.
They send you a shirt that has the pockets for your drains in, so you can, that is a huge thing. People don't understand when you have that type of procedure, you have to have drains hanging from your body so that your body doesn't collect fluid. And so I had 2 from each breast, and then I had another 1 or 2 on my abdomen. Okay. And so the shirt helps you to have a place for them so you're not pulling them or getting them stuck on something. And so it comes with a shirt, it comes with a pillow, it comes with a little prayer card. I mean, and she does it for free. She does it for people who are having their surgeries.
It's amazing.
Is you, if you can, to pay for shipping. And I was able to pay more because I wanted to help. So, so I made a donation, and she takes donations, and that's pretty much what covers, you know, all of the fabric materials and things that she needs in order to make the boxes, as well as the postage that she pays. But she puts out hundreds of boxes every couple of weeks or every week. And it's a project that I'm very appreciative of, because again, I had already gone through mine, but my sister was not far from having hers, and she got her a box like that.
Wow.
Immediately got her a box. She sent me a pillow as well. I didn't need the shirt, she sent me the pillow. And those are all really nice things that when you're on these support groups, you can then, when you're done and you have healed, you can then give it to someone who's going through it, so they don't have to take on a cost, you know, of
that's good.
That you need.
Yeah. Wow, that's certainly a blessing. Now, you've also shared, there's another one, which is a nonprofit organization. It's called LetThereBeMom.org. This organization is dedicated to serving moms and dads that are battling a life-threatening illness. So those are some great resources, and I appreciate you for sharing that. I do have a couple myself, and again, there's one that I found. It's a caregiver support group, and it's called cancare.org. That's a good one, as well as griefshare.org. And if you're a reader, and I've said this on all my shows, I'm a huge fan of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She created the 5 stages of grief, but she's also written a number of books. 2 that I recommend is On Death and Dying. And then the other one is On Grief and Grieving. So those are my resources, and we will put that in the video description. But before we go, I would love for you to give some advice for those women out there who are maybe battling cancer of any kind, who may not have the support that you had, a great husband. They may not have family that's in town, but they're battling cancer. Or maybe they're caring for a loved one with cancer. What advice would you give those women?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the Facebook groups that I had were really helpful. Women who had been through the same thing that I have, that were able to tell me they were already healed. So they were able to tell me, okay, this is what you should do, or this is what you shouldn't do, or this is what to look out for. You know, I think that when you're a person like me who's impacted by a very close family member being impacted with cancer, you have to remember that as hard it is for you and the emotions that you're going through, it's
Right.
even more difficult for them. So there are times when, you know, my sister didn't want to talk to me, and I don't think it was me. She just didn't want to talk, right? Or
Right.
she was going through something in the moment and needed to be by herself. And you have to be really understanding and not take that personal, because there's some things that those who are actually battling the disease have to go through internally with themselves. And they're
Right.
not always going to be the nicest, right? They
Right.
have moments in time where they're struggling, or they're in pain, or a reality comes to them that they may die.
Right.
And that's always, you don't want them to think like that, but they still have that in their head.
Yeah.
And you just have to be really thoughtful to that and understanding, and know that it's not you, it's they're going through something, and really being empathetic to that. I think that was the hardest part for me, is really being able to allow my sister to just, if she needed to cry, if she needed to yell, if she needed to scream, like just do it.
Right.
And being able to be comfortable in that space and helping talk through it, right?
Right.
The only thing you can do is there's at times there's no words, there's nothing you can say. Sometimes it's sitting there and just being there. And you know, I had plenty of friends who showed up at the house, brought food, just came and sat with me. And you know, those are the things that matter when you're going through something difficult. You know, even for women who are not going through it, remember, if you have friends, I've had plenty of friends who have been through it, be there.
Right.
I always want to be the person that is there for people. Even if it's my last ounce of strength, I want to be that for other people, because
You definitely are that.
I just can't imagine. I've been blessed not to have been diagnosed with cancer. And so I feel lucky. I feel blessed by that. And
Yeah.
so when someone I know is going through it, and the things that I've seen, you know, watching someone you love deteriorate, it changes you. It changes what's
Yeah.
important to you. It changes everything. But I think that being able to take that in that time, right, is really, really important. You have to be able to be strong for them and allow them to feel what they're feeling.
Wow. Powerful. Well, I hate that we're out of time, because I could listen to you all night long, but I certainly appreciate you for being here. I know that you sharing your story it will impact and inspire and empower those ladies out there. So thank you again for being on the show, Vanessa.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for joining us for this episode. If there are any topics that you would like for us to cover on the show, or better yet, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please visit our website at realtalkwitharlette.com and click Let's Talk. Until next time, ladies, I encourage you to be faithful, be fearless, but most importantly, just be yourself. Bye-bye.